Hi everybody, my name is Zach and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at the 5 guitarists that have influenced me as a player the most. I feel like if you can get your head around a guitarist's influences, you can start to understand the guitarists themselves. I'm going to be doing some playing through a few different mini pedal boards that I'm setting up with a few different guitars. And it's important to say though, right from the top, that I'm not trying to replicate these guitarists' tones exactly. I think for 2 reasons. Firstly, it's impossible. I have my hands, they have or had their hands. I have the equipment that I have available to me, they had their equipment. The recording techniques over the years that these guitarists have used, it's just not going to be possible to get an exact tone. But also secondly, it's kind of not the point of this video. So really the point of today is to get into who my influences are and really to celebrate the way that they've influenced my playing. They happen to all have a first name beginning with a letter J. I don't know how that ended up being the case, but hey, that's quite fun. But let's get into the first guitarist. The first influence for me has got to be Jimi Hendrix. Now, I've been playing guitar for somewhere between 15 and 16 years now. I've had more of my life where I've been playing guitar than not. And there's still things when I listen to Hendrix's music now that I just can't get my head around. I just don't understand how he played what he played. I used to own this enormous book which basically gave you all of the tab for all of Hendrix's kind of greatest hits. And there was things I just couldn't wrap my head around. He's totally unique, he's a pioneer. His influence is definitely still being felt today in modern music, whether you're a guitarist or not. He was doing things that no one else had done, and that's got to be something to celebrate. And I think many of those things would still be very difficult to replicate today. He pushed the boundaries of guitar playing, he pushed the boundaries of songwriting, of studio kind of processes for recording. He truly had an impact on the world. I totally wore out my Woodstock '69 DVD. I watched it so many times. It's been through the wars, but the sounds and the performance that he gives on that concert just blew me away and still blow me away to today. Hendrix mastered the clean chordal playing, beautiful clean guitar tones, primarily off a Strat, but also he then pushed things into those huge fuzzy distorted tones, dive bombs, and using feedback in a way that I don't think anyone else at the time had ever done before. For me, he was the first guitarist that I ever knew about who tuned the guitar down to E flat, standard tuning in E flat. And I was trying to learn his songs and I couldn't get my head around why I was playing the tabs correctly, but it felt like it was in totally the wrong key. And then I realized he's tuning his guitar down. And I'm pretty sure other guitarists had done that at the time, but for me, that was such a new thing and opened my mind to the fact that you can tune a guitar differently. It was huge. Hendrix also broke all the rules that your guitar teacher would show you at school and used his thumb over the top of the neck to fret things. And for me, again, that has massively influenced the way that I play. I do that all the time in my playing. And for me, I think one of the biggest things, which we'll keep seeing throughout all these guitar influences for me, is that he was a Fender Stratocaster player, which just drew me to this instrument. I thought if Hendrix can make those sounds with a Fender Stratocaster, then that's the kind of guitar that I want to get. Influence number 2 for me has got to be John Frusciante. Probably most famous for being part of the Red Hot Chili Peppers over many, many years. John Frusciante is probably the guitarist that has influenced me most on the whole sort of broad scale of his playing. Again, he's primarily in my mind a Fender Strat player. I know he played Gretsch White Falcons and Telecasters and Les Pauls and all sorts of other things as well, I'm sure, throughout his career. But for me, he's primarily a Fender Stratocaster player. He is the reason that I bought a Boss DS1. He is the reason that I bought a Electro Harmonix Big Muff. He is the reason that I've always wanted to try out an Ibanez WH10 wah pedal. John Frusciante is one of the reasons that most of the gear that I have had my hands on over the years, from Marshall and Fender amps to Strats, he's the reason, because of his playing and me watching their live videos over and over again. Their Slane Castle live DVD is one of my most watched DVDs in my entire life. Their Hyde Park album, which amazingly I had the chance to be at. My dad took myself and my brother, and I think my friend as well, to see them live at Hyde Park. At the time, didn't really know the great sort of playing and sort of band that I was really witnessing, but I knew that there was something good here that I wanted to imitate. John Frusciante has been a big influence on me in terms of having guitars more as tools rather than things to kind of keep preciously tucked away to keep them safe. If you look at any of his guitars, they're very road worn. The finish is kind of worn off of them. They've got dings and scratches everywhere. And I think that's had a big influence on me. I don't know whether you guys are into relic guitars or not, but John Frusciante is the reason that I am into relic guitars. John again has an amazing kind of clean tone when he's playing chords. He's got an incredibly deep understanding of harmony as well, I think. But also, again, I just love the way that he can go from clean chords, sort of joining in with the band, to suddenly kicking in a huge fuzzy kind of overdriven tone for a soaring solo. Another thing that John Frusciante has influenced me in is that it is about feel, not perfection. Not to say that John Frusciante's playing is sloppy or inaccurate at all. No, not at all. But he is more about the feel and the expression of emotion through his playing than he is about nailing every single sort of nuance of the note. And I think that's had a huge influence on me. There's a track called Hey on the Stadium Arcadium album, which is my favorite Chili Peppers album, mostly because of John's playing and producing. But the solo of that song has an incredible wah tone. It's not massively distorted, but there's points in it where almost stumbles over a note, but because he does, it just adds to the kind of in the moment feel of emotion and expression that's gone into the song. Absolutely love it. He's a fantastic songwriter and a vocalist. I mean, just think of a song like Scar Tissue. What an amazing hook to have written. So iconic. Another thing that has influenced me in a big way is that he, for many, many years, was the only electric guitarist in the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They are a three-piece band, electric guitar, drums, and bass, with a vocalist. And I think actually to carry the sound and fill all that space sonically as the only electric guitarist in the band for many, many years, you've got to take your hat off to John Frusciante. Influence number 3 for me has to be John Mayer. What a guitarist, what a songwriter. The Continuum album was my introduction to John Mayer and his playing a number of years ago, and it just blew me away then, and actually it continues to blow me away now. It's a beautiful, beautiful album from start to finish, packed full of incredible songwriting, incredible dynamic and just tone. Whoa. The band and session players that back John are clearly some of the best in the business. Steve Jordan, Pino Palladino, what an incredible lineup that is. I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from John Mayer's playing is, again, about feel. It's about not just kind of going all guns blazing every moment throughout a song. It's about playing the right part at the right time in the song with the right feel. Feel is a very difficult thing to get our heads around, but John Mayer seems to have got loads of it, and there's little details in his playing which make such a difference. The sort of touch sensitivity, the phrasing of his guitar playing, that all fits within the arrangement of the song so well, has had a massive influence on my playing. As I say, he's a brilliant songwriter, a brilliant vocalist, but also he has a lot of guitars and a lot of amps and a lot of pedals at his disposal. But for me, and I think for most people, his most iconic guitar is his #1 guitar, that black Strat, which he uses, has used throughout his career. That being said, he is a brilliant example of a guitar player who picks the guitar for the song. He picks the guitar that best fits the part, that best fits the arrangement of the song. He doesn't just stick with one guitar and see how he gets on. No, he thinks about how do I get the sound that best suits this part, and goes for the guitar that fits the part, which I'm trying to do more and more in my playing. On the 2007 Where the Light Is album that came out with the DVD as well, that has been another one of my most watched DVDs over the years, and we get an amazing just sense of the breadth of John's songwriting ability and guitar playing on that album. Do check it out if you haven't done so already. I've also learned from John Mayer's playing how a brilliant guitar solo can work in a pop song. Guitar playing most of the time these days in popular music, it's there, but it's definitely not front and center. But John Mayer's taught us all, I think, that actually the guitar is still very much the instrument to go to, even in popular songs in the charts. So the fourth guitarist that has influenced me is the great Julian Large. Julian, if you haven't gone and checked out Julian Large's playing, please do that right now. Open up another tab on YouTube, get Julian Large up on your Spotify account, whatever it is that you listen to music on. Listen to Julian's music. He is an incredible guitarist, an incredible all-round musician. So I'm not normally an avid listener of instrumental music, as you can probably tell from the other influences that I've been mentioning in the video so far. Almost all of them are guitarists, but also singers and songwriters. But Julian, as far as I'm aware, doesn't sing on any of his arrangements, but his guitar playing does sing. His guitar playing is so melodic, so lyrical, so expressive that actually I find myself singing his tunes, singing his compositions, even though there's no lyrics per se to those songs. Julian is a fantastic composer, very much in the kind of jazz world of things. So out of the guitarist that I'm looking at today, he's definitely more on the jazz end of things, but amazingly combines out and out classic jazz and standards with just his own flavor on it, bringing in kind of bluesy and country playing as well. For me, Julian is very much a Fender Telecaster player. I know he's recently put out a signature guitar with Collings, the incredible company Collings. I know he's played Gretsch's as well, and I'm sure he's played other instruments in the past. But for me, the time that I have seen him live, playing live twice in London, he's been a Telecaster man. That beautiful kind of butterscotch 52 style blackguard telly, which we all know and love so well. He's been a big influence on me in the last few years, because maybe like you, as a guitarist, I like collecting pedals, overdrive pedals, maybe in particular. Yeah, take your pick. Which pedals do you like collecting the most? But Julian has an amazing way to have the most simple rig. Fender Telecaster, maybe, but not always, maybe into a Strymon Flint or something similar to that, which does the kind of reverb and tremolo, maybe into that pedal. But most frequently, just straight into a Fender Blackface amp, with the reverb up. And I've got to give it to him, man, I love pedals and gear, but the sounds that Julian Large can get out of just a Telecaster straight into a Fender amp are just mind-blowing. And it really had an impact on me. I think stripping back your rig actually from time to time is a really helpful thing, just to get you back to basics, get you back to what guitar is all about. So for Julian, it's so much about using the volume control on the Telecaster, switching between different pickups, the tone control as well on the Telecaster makes such a difference. In a sense, these controls here are his kind of pedal board, his rig, everything that he needs is in here. He's such a dynamic player, which means he can go from really clean bell-like tones to really pushing the front end of the amp into this lovely kind of that Fender Blackface amp sound that we love as it starts to break up. He also just reminds me whenever I listen to him or watch him play that actually playing guitar should be just about a delight in making music and expressing yourself. If you see Julian play, just the smile on his face, you can just see he's just enjoying being in the moment playing the guitar, and that has a big influence on me. He's also got a deep, a profound understanding of music theory and music in its wholeness. He's a very deep thinking person. If you see interviews with him, actually the way he thinks about harmony, the way that he thinks about intervals, the way that he thinks about the way he's using scales is actually a really deep thing. So do check him out. Go head over to other interviews that you've seen with Julian Large. He'll have an influence on you as well, I think. Okay, so my fifth and final guitar influence of today's video is the wonderful Joey Landreth. And you may be looking at me and thinking, Zach, you've not just been influenced in your guitar playing, but also in the way that you look. Yeah, it's probably fair to say. Hey, he's a handsome guy, what can I say? So Joey Landreth for me is a relatively new, compared to Hendrix or John Frusciante, relatively new guitar influence for me. But actually in the last couple years, it's probably shaped my songwriting and my guitar playing more than anyone else, I think is fair to say. I've had his own solo albums on repeat, but also the amazing albums that he's put out with the bros Landreth as well. A number of YouTube videos that I've watched of him playing live or doing little pedal demos or playing the various guitars that he kind of plays. Joey Landreth has been a big influence on my playing in the last few years. A few things that really struck me about Joey Landreth's playing. Firstly, it's just how expressive it is. He is a very expressive guitar player, very touch sensitive, constantly rolling with the volume and tone controls on whatever guitar he's playing, just to get the tone that best suits the kind of voice that he's trying to put out there. Secondly, it's just a big tone. He's got a really big tone, because that's partly down to obviously the way he plays. So much of tone is obviously in your fingers, but also just hearing the stories of how heavy his string gauges are and how he tunes a lot of guitars almost like his new standard tuning for his way of playing, tuned down to C, sort of C to C. And he just gets this incredible warm tone out of almost any guitar that he sets his hands on, but at the same time maintains a real clarity and an articulation. I've attempted this little demo on this kind of Goldtop Les Paul copy LP style guitar with some P90s in it, which is at the moment one of the guitars that, or the styles of guitar that Joey Landreth really gravitates to. But I think I've got like 11s on this. So I've tuned this down, not quite to C, but down to D. So we're kind of going D to D, just to try and imitate some of those big strings, low tuning tones. Joey's slide playing is just another level. He seems like a very humble guy, so he always credits any of his slide playing kind of influences to other people. But man, that guy's worked hard and he has some incredible slide guitar playing tones. So for some Joey Landreth-esque tones, like I say, I've got this kind of LP style Goldtop guitar with some P90s in it, and we're going into the, we've got the Boss TR2 tremolo, because Joey Landreth is just got this amazing kind of harmonic tremolo kind of tone, which he uses a lot on loads of his albums and loads of his songs. So we're going to try and imitate that with the tremolo. We've also got the JHS 3 Series Fuzz. We might keep that in a little bit later for some fuzzier, kind of big fuzzier tones. But then also the JRockett Audio Designs Archer for that kind of clon style sound, and then the Bluesky by Strymon out into the amp. Guitar influences. I could mention loads and loads more for you, but those at the moment are my top 5. So we've got John, Jimmy, Joey and Julian, the 5 J's. Just a few thoughts off the back of it. Firstly is that I think it's clear that the guitars that your influences use tend to be the guitars that you gravitate towards as a player. For me, a load of those guys are Strat players or S-style players, and it's clear that that's my #1 guitar. A Fender Strat is my #1 guitar because of the guitarists that have influenced me. I think also these guys are mostly sort of loud, relatively clean valve amp players who stack drives on top of that with pedals. So most of those guys are setting their amp to just where it begins to break up, getting a nice kind of valve tube saturation, and then pushing the front of the amp with boosts or drives or fuzzes. And again, that's a big influence on me. That's how I tend to get my tones. And thirdly, and just interestingly, is that all of these players are songwriters. They are guitarists, of course, but they're also songwriters and composers. And they write really, really good songs. And so I know for me, that's been a big part of me and my playing, is that I'm not just out to shred, I'm not just out to kind of show off my best and my favorite licks, but actually I'm there to play the guitar that serves the song and serves the composition, serves the arrangement. But I would love to know who your favorite guitar players are, who has influenced you most over the years. Is there anyone that really surprises you when you think back through your guitar journey? Do pop them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. And finally, please do, as I'm just starting getting this YouTube channel going, please do like and subscribe. Share these videos around with people that you know. It would really help me just to get this thing off the ground. Thank you so much for watching, and tune in next time.